Have you figured out that not everything you see on TV or online is true? I hope so. It's certainly very clear that that's the case. And that poses some problems for us when we're trying to do genealogy research. Whether we're watching a TV show or we're coming across a blog article or a YouTube video, whatever we're looking at, it can be really enticing to believe what you see or what you read because it fits what you would like to think. You want more information on your family. You want to feel like you're making progress and you're getting further back and you found photographs. So it's really exciting when those results pop up. But I'm here today to talk about why that is a trap and how to save you and me from getting into trouble, grabbing onto information that actually isn't correct. And once we get that incorporated into our family tree, into our software, into any books that we're publishing or whatever it is we're doing, it just becomes a nightmare because it just gets replicated so quickly. And if you spend much time looking at online family trees, you know that's definitely the case. And it's really been the case ever since online family trees first began. So I wanted to share with you today a short story about something that happened in my world in the last week that I think illustrates this and also gives us a couple of tips on what we can do to verify the information that we're finding and make sure that we're not incorporating stuff that is inaccurate into our family history. So the other day I was watching a news program, which I don't know, when I was growing up, it was a news program. It was like, oh, that's really authoritative. Well, we might take that with a grain of salt these days, but it was a news program. And they had a little segment in the show where they were talking about this day in history. That's really popular to do. Anybody can go on to like historychannel.com and type in a date, and you can find a list of things that happened at any particular time over history on that date. So that's probably what they did. They grabbed a topic. Well, it was the story of Nat Turner's rebellion. And what they were talking about was that this date in history, November 5th, was the date that he was tried and convicted. But it was November 5th, 1831. Now, I'm watching the show, and while the story's being told, a photograph of Nat Turner pops up on the screen. It was probably on the screen for 7 to 10 seconds tops, and it was supposedly of Nat Turner. Well, as I'm continuing to listen to this story really quickly, like bells are going off in my head, and I hit the pause button, and I looked at my husband, and I said, there's something not right. That can't be Nat Turner. And he's like, what? But it dawned on me as I'm looking at this photograph, and let me pull it up here on my screen. It's up on the TV screen, and I'm looking at this photo, and they're talking about this November 5th of 1831. Well, photography really didn't come into existence until about 1826. And if you look at this photograph, I mean, while there, I suppose, could have been a photograph of Nat Turner, it was very, very unlikely in 1831. And in this case, one of the things that really jumped out to me about this photograph was kind of how bright and fairly modern it looked for the 19th century. If I had to guess, I would say this photo is maybe from the 1860s or something like that. But it couldn't have been Nat Turner because he was executed. So I had to stop right there and figure out, how did this news show end up with this photograph that they're portraying as Nat Turner, which if this were my ancestors' family's story, I'd want the accurate information, right? So I want to share with you a couple of ways in which I went about figuring this out very quickly. And first and foremost, I want to say, trust your instincts. So if you see something and you look at a photograph and it's not kind of jiving with the time frame or the history of photography, I mean, those are some of your first and easiest clues. And don't disregard them. As badly as we want to find photographs of our ancestors, if it's not really them, it's not worth glomming onto. And we don't want to incorporate it into the family history. So once I kind of determined that, what I did was I grabbed my phone and I just held it up and took a photograph of what was on the screen, on the TV screen. And then I used my photo app to crop it down so it was really just focused. I just ended up with an image of the photo itself, not all the stuff that's on the screen behind it or the cabinetry, that the TV sits on. So now I have an image. What I then did was I went to the Google app on my phone. And first and foremost, I really quickly just ran a search on when was photography invented. And like I said, it's right around 1826. That's about the time frame that it first started. And it wasn't a photograph of a person at all. Was the first photo certainly wasn't. So then I thought, okay, well, are there photographs of Nat Turner? Is that even possible in 1831? So in my Google search app, I'm going to type Nat Turner, 1831, and run the results. Now, when you get the results, you're going to get the website results page, and that's going to probably have an AI write-up that they have grabbed from some website, but that's not what we want. I'm going to tap the images results, and there's your clue number 2. On the images, if you scroll through, it's all artwork. It's line drawings, paintings, graphics of some type. Why? Because there is no photograph of Nat Turner in 1831. And he didn't live beyond that year, so there wouldn't be one afterward. And that's clue number 2, that somebody's got something wrong here. It's not Nat Turner. Okay, so if there's no photograph of him, what could we do to try to figure out how this mistake happened? Next step, I'm going to go back in my Google app, clear my query at the top in the search bar and the results, and I'm going to tap the Google Lens icon that's in the search bar. And I'm doing this on my phone. I've already taken the photograph from the screen on my phone, so I'm going to not hold it up again to the screen because I want a nice cropped picture of just the photograph that was shown on the screen. So I'm going to tap the photo button to the left of the big white search button. And it allows you to pull an image from your photo roll on your phone. So in my case, I don't always have that available. So I'm going to tap allow access. This one time I'm going to do that. It will take me to my settings where I can change it to allow Google to use my images off my phone, at least temporarily. So I did that, and I went to the photograph that I took in my app roll, tapped that, and then tapped search. And interestingly, let me pull this up here too, there are multiple copies of this image online. This is what caused me to go back and actually look at the original photograph I took of the screen. And sure enough, it did say that the source they got it from was the NAACP, Austin.com. Now that I'm looking at the search results where Google took the image I gave it and found exact matches, we can then look through and realize, oh, okay, this has actually been copied and replicated on several different websites in their blog posts. Probably for a blog post for this day in history, right? So from there, my guess is NAACP Austin either grabbed it off of X or Springer, or you could go through and click on each one and see which one is the oldest blog post to see, perhaps, who was the original culprit in grabbing the wrong image. So how did they end up with this photograph as a representative image of Nat Turner? Well, our related search at the very top, Google's given us a really good clue. Charles Henry Turner. If you search on Charles Henry Turner on Google, you will find all kinds of information about him. It says here, Charles Henry Turner, according to the Britannica Encyclopedia website, is an African-American entomologist. And he was very well known, but get this, he was born in 1867. So I think I was right. This photograph was much later than 1831 for sure. And you could just kind of tell that from the look of the photo itself. So chances are if he's, let's say, 30 years old in that, this is more like 1897 than it is 1831. So I'm sure that Charles Henry Turner's family isn't really interested in having their ancestor's photograph attached across the internet as Nat Turner of the Nat Turner's Rebellion. So, bottom line here is whenever we are searching online or reading other people's content, watching their videos, whether it's on TV, if it's on the news, I don't care who it is, if you feel like this is information worthy of adding to your family history, then you've got to go check it out yourself. Find primary sources that can give you evidence that you indeed have the right accurate information, the right photograph. If it isn't right, it'd be really interesting to kind of track down where did it originally come from, how did that happen, and then maybe alert those people to the fact that you've got the wrong guy there. In fact, I did. I wrote an email to the producer of that show. I got an email back saying that they had received my email and would take a look at it, but nobody has gotten back to me since. But I know that I did my part to try to correct the record. I hope that you will continue to join me here at Genealogy Gems, where we're always focused on getting the record corrected and accurate, because it's your family history, and that really matters. Thank you so much for listening, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.